Hello, you're listening to Over the Oxer podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians. So this week, really thrilled to speak to an old friend of mine, not under the best of circumstances, but I'm really, really happy to see her again. And that is Aileen Feeney. And Aileen is a producer of young show jumping and eventing horses. She was based in Cheshire for 20 years. And that's how I met her, before she moved back and set up a business in Northern Ireland. She's currently under investigation for motor neuron disease, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit, and hopefully talk about her one-arm challenge a bit more. So, Aileen, a big warm welcome. Lovely to see you. And thanks ever so much for doing this, because you're in the middle of COVID as well, aren't you, on top of everything else?
Yep, the gifts it just keeps giving.
So tell us, first of all, how you got into horses, because your family weren't horsey at all, were they?
No, well, we live on a farm, but no horses, no interest in horses whatsoever. So it all came from my elder sister, Susan, who I was slightly obsessed with. Susan's 7, 8 years older than me, and she loved horses, and a neighbour down the road helped her get a pony and get her started. Basically, I started riding just so I could follow her around. Yeah, and then got into pony club and enjoyed competing more than riding, to be honest.
And you were more of an eventer than anything else, weren't you, when you were in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I'd say pony club sort of push you to do everything. But yeah, over here it was eventing. The only way I could go to shows and do stuff. My mum and dad did everything they could. My dad made us a trailer and took us to pony club. But to get into a higher level of competing, the only way to do it really was to work as a groom.
Yeah.
Riders around here were eventers. So I worked for Tom Docherty. My sister worked for Stuart Crawford. We were on the eventing scene.
Yeah. Great. And then you came to England as a student, didn't you, to study and to become a teacher, a school teacher even, which seems like a million years ago now. But that was when I met you, because to earn a bit of extra cash, you were doing the lessons, of course, and I had lessons with you. So then you decided school teaching wasn't for you, even though you were brilliant at it. All the parents and the kids thought you were great, but it wasn't for you. And you moved on. And one of the first people that you worked for then was Reg Crank, the ex-Grand National jockey, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't actually remember how I met Reg. I think it was just one of the girls in the yard knew him. So yeah, I started riding out with Reg Crank every morning. That's where I learnt to break horses in, was working with Reg up and down the gallops, riding. And then decided to leave. I worked with Reg at the same time, was sort of teaching and finishing uni. I then decided to give teaching up completely and move more in towards show jumping. Moved from Reg Crank's yard to Jeff Billington's. That was my first encounter with show jumping. Before that, like I said, I'd always been eventing. Jeff Billington led to Billy Toomey, Peewit Stud, and I was at Peewit Stud for 10 years for Billy and Anthony Condon.
Yeah. What made you go more towards the show jumping and away from the eventing?
Anne Mason, who, do you remember Anne?
Yeah.
On the yard with us, and Anne had previously worked for Jeff and had mentioned that his yard was literally a couple of miles down the road. So yeah, and it was just the location really, and Anne did the introduction and I started working for Jeff. And then Jeff introduced me to Billy, who again was just a couple of miles down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I'd sat on a Grand Prix show jumper and ridden a show jumping horse, I think I've lost. Yeah, it lost its pull after that. It was show jumping all the way then.
Oh, brilliant. And you made a very conscious decision then not to be a professional show jumper, if you like, yourself, although you did jump at a very high level, but more towards bringing the youngsters through and bringing youngsters on, didn't you? So what was it about youngsters that drew you?
I've always, right from Reg Crank days, even at home, my first pony was a 12-2 stallion. That was 2 years of age and on to touch.
Because that's what you would put your young daughter on, isn't it?
They got given this colt and they took it. So yeah, everything had been about young horses, producing them, making them all the way through. And when you're young, it's your dream. You watch the show jumpers on TV and you think, yeah, I'll be a show jumper. When you're on their yard and seeing their lives, it's amazing, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Not an easy life. Like when I was in Billy's yard, he was rarely in the country. He was flying home for a couple of days, seeing his children, seeing the yard, and flying back out to another show. It's a whole different world. But to be honest, I loved doing what I did with the horses and then watching Anthony take over. I love get as much of a buzz standing at the side of the ring watching Anthony jump a horse around the 5-year-old class that I had ridden the previous year. And then a couple of years later to see Billy riding it as an 8-year-old in its first Grand Prix.
Yeah.
That was as much of a buzz as being in that ring and doing it yourself.
Oh, wow. Wow. And I remember, when I was on your yard, you had like Mary King's horses at one point, didn't you? I remember that. You had all kinds of horses there.
We stopped doing the eventing for a long time, but the event horses were still coming in.
Yeah.
One of the first people to offer me support, one of the first people to send me a message and tell them, they were thinking about me and to do the one-arm challenge was Sam Ackroyd. Sam Ackroyd, Billy King. I think you were there when we had their horses in for breaking, doing lovely, lovely people. I say I wasn't eventing at that point, but we still had the eventers coming through the doors.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do remember you selling horses to Saudi princesses as well. And that's just a bizarre thing to do, isn't it? I mean, it just seemed a bit weird to me that they would come all the way from Saudi Arabia to Cheshire to buy horses, and they would buy, not weird that they would buy from you, but weird that they'd make that huge journey.
You over to Saudi. If they look pretty, they were safe and they jumped 120. That's where they went. To be honest, most of them stayed in contact with us and we got loads of videos and saw them living their new lives in the sun. Yeah, no, we were very proud of all the horses that went there. Sally being first, and Sally was a big love of mine, so to let her go over, it had to be a good place to go.
Yeah. And I know of two other big loves of yours, JD and Jessica. Tell us about those horses.
JD, you had the privilege of riding and knowing and being close to. JD I met when I was in Duncan Douglas's yard. He was in a field doing very little. And Duncan basically said, if you can stay on it, you can have it.
What a challenge.
Challenge with JD, and he stayed with me and lived with Tiggy until we never really knew what age he was, but he must have been well into his 20s.
Yeah.
But yeah, he taught me. I did fall off him quite a few times, but but he taught me so much more than any riding instructor ever could. And Jessica is the poster girl for MND. She's everywhere. She's still with me. My niece Neve jumps her now, and my sister Patricia helps ride her. Yeah, she's in a different league than anything else. I have tried jumping her again myself, but she's very strong.
And she was another one, wasn't she, that wasn't like up to much, as people didn't think that she was going to be anything special, and you found her. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we knew she was special, but we knew nothing about her.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah.
no, she came out of a field. We guessed she was about 6, but again, we didn't really know. Took a long time to get her broken in riding. Can't take credit for that. Kieran Baslington did that, but she wasn't easy. And then I started jumping her for Nick, who owned it at the time. Yeah, one of the few horses that I fell in love with and said, actually, can I keep this one?
Yeah. Yeah. Was it Jessica that you took to Europe when you were doing that show jumping tour?
Yeah, Jessica's been over and jumped in Portugal and
Yeah.
traveled around the world with me.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, and she's quite happy with the grass here. Not sure she's happy with the rain.
Oh. Oh God. So you if you think about, then you were working Fox Moss, it was going really, really well, but then COVID hit and you decided to go back home to Northern Ireland. And then, like we were saying just before I started recording, although obviously lots of people knew you, you had a big client base in Cheshire of like ordinary riders like me. I know the elite riders were there as well, but lots of people knew you, lots of people sent their horses to you, lots of people wanted you to jump their horses, and so you transported yourself to Northern Ireland, where I know you still knew quite a few people, but you kind of lost that base as well. So that's quite a brave move as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it kind of happened suddenly. I moved home just before COVID. I moved home in February with the intentions of working at home for 6 months or a year until I figured out where to go. My family are convinced that if COVID hadn't hit, I would have been on a boat on the way to Germany or Belgium or
Yeah.
somewhere. As it turns out, COVID started in March at the same time as I discovered I was really bad at working for somebody. Yeah, I didn't enjoy working on a yard for someone else at all. And the farm was here, so it was
Yeah.
quite a transition to make. To My sister had already built a little bit of a livery yard at home, and I was so lucky that she welcomed me to join her. She like, there's room here for both of us. So I built an arena together. We built a few more stables. And to be honest, without trying, the stables filled. Without advertising, literally word of mouth, the stables filled. And unlike Fox Moss, we don't need to have 25 stables here. The most we ever have in is 12.
Yeah.
And we own the land, so that's a big lump of money not being paid out in rent every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 12 horses was enough for Patricia and I to set up and start a business together on the farm that otherwise wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. And I mean, I've seen on Facebook the pictures of where you live and where you hack and where you jump and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, I can just see why you moved now. I don't think there'd be much of a choice for me. I think I'd be there as well. So you've started the business again, but again, it's flourishing and you're getting the horses in. So the worst thing happened until you started to not have the strength in your arm that you used to have. Was those your first signs of MND?
As I say, my symptoms are not typical.
Yeah.
So for the people watching this with MND, they might be watching thinking that's not how, because my symptoms started a few years ago, which is very unusual. Normally, symptoms start, and 2 to 3 years from onset is your full life expectancy.
Wow.
But mine started with cramping in my hand. If I gripped something, I couldn't let go of it as far back as 2018. So
Oh God. Wow.
quite unheard of. So for a long time, we just thought it was a trapped nerve, and then all got put on hold because of changing from England to Northern Ireland, then COVID. So everything sort of stopped until 2024 when I went to neurology again here, and I was like, look, this is progressive. This is getting worse. And even in January 2024, they said, look, you've fallen off too many horses. You've
Yeah.
got muscle damage. Just live with it. Go home. So to be honest, at that point, it was just frustration. It
Yeah.
was frustration because I was like, I haven't had a fall. I haven't hurt my arm. I know that if you look at my life, you would say, yes, I felt bad. I didn't have a fall. I didn't hurt my arm in that way, and it's not getting better.
Yeah.
Everything keeps getting worse. And then from January 2024 until January 2025, the progression is somewhat rapid. that's the first it affected me on a horse. Up until January of 2025, because on a horse my hands were low and tight against my sides.
Yeah.
That was my most strength. So if it wasn't for Patricia and Neve, I would have had to given up a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because I stopped being able to tack a horse up before I was unable to ride it. I couldn't lift my arms to put on a bridle or put on a saddle, or I couldn't use my fingers to tighten a girth or do it. But they did that for me. And once I was on a horse, everything seemed more difficult but doable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was January of this year was the first time I got on a horse and actually had to get off and say, look, I can't hold this horse. I can't ride it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the first. So January was probably the toughest month.
Yeah.
So after years and years and years of being stubborn and pig-headed and saying there's nothing wrong with me, I'm okay, I'll be fine, I actually admitted defeat. So I went back for the same test that I'd had January the year before. And at this point, they agreed they could see progression. They agreed there's something going on here. So your first reaction was a huge sense of relief that somebody believed you.
Yeah.
After a long, long time of telling people it wasn't getting any better and nobody believing you. So yeah, the first sense was one of relief.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose we should just stop for a moment and say what MND or motor neuron disease is, in case anybody is unsure. What is it? You probably know very, very scientifically what it is now, but what does it mean to you, and what's happening to your body?
Well, I'll try and keep it as non-scientific as possible. But basically, you've motor neurons that control the nerves that control your muscles. You've two sets, upper motor neurons, lower motor neurons. The upper motor neurons control the signals from your brain to your spine. The lower ones control your spine to your muscles. So for ALS, which is the most common form of MND, both sets of motor neurons are affected. At the minute, mine is leaning more towards the lower motor neurons. There are some clinical signs of the upper motor neurons, but they're not playing a huge role yet. So I am quite lucky in the fact that mine is therefore a slower progressing type of motor neuron. So basically, it started with, it's not a pain. It's not that you can't move your arm because it's sore. It's you're looking at your arm and telling it to move and it just doesn't. Or you go to pick something up that you used to pick up every day, for me, a saddle, and you can't. It feels just like a lead weight. You just can't pick, or if you can pick it up, you couldn't hold it with one arm to open the stable door, or everything just suddenly became very, very heavy. And then the visible signs, the what we call muscle atrophy, where the muscle literally just disappears in front of your eyes. Like you go from having muscly strong arms to the muscle's just not there.
Yeah.
It's just a bone. So, yeah, that was all I noticed. The doctors pointed out a lot more after I saw them.
Yeah.
So I had noticed I was having, but the symptoms I reported were the muscle weakness, the muscle wastage. Yeah, and just nothing working.
Yeah. Yeah. So, are there any drugs or anything like that? Anything even in experimental stages that would help?
So straight away they put me on a drug called Riluzole, which is supposed to slow progress down. It could add 2, maybe 3 months onto somebody's life expectancy. So I started that straight away. I've been on baclofen for a year, which is a drug to help control the cramps. There's muscle cramps. Other than that, no. There are clinical trials going on. Nothing. Does that sound pessimistic? No, nothing too exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the moment that there's no cure for it and it's progressive, and people might know somebody like Rob Burrows, the rugby player. He had it, and obviously a different type to you because his was quite quick, wasn't it? It seemed to be quite quick progression.
Yeah, I say normally speaking, from onset symptoms, 2, possibly 3 years until everything shuts down. So I'm under observation at the minute for speech and respiratory, and just constantly checking all the other parts of your body to
Yeah.
make sure that they're not spreading. So touch wood at the minute, my legs seem okay. Respiratory seems okay. There's a little bit in my mouth, a little bit of a slur in the words, a little bit of a tongue. So at the minute, yeah, mine would be classed as PMA, although PMA shouldn't have it in your mouth or your tongue. So there are overlaps with ALS.
Yeah.
But without a definitive test, it's hard to know.
Yeah, because we were saying just before we started recording that they assume it's MND really, but you've got no real evidence yet, have you?
They do the most conclusive test they can do is one called an EMG, a nerve conduction, which basically shockwaves your muscles to
Yeah.
and reads how fast the nerves react. And they put a needle into your muscles and they listen to the muscles move to see how they're reacting. So my EMG nerve conduction has come back with abnormalities, but other than that, there's no test for it. And I'm now finding out that there's hundreds of things that mimic ALS. So your hope is that you're going to have something that's mimicking. It's just that they're constantly testing for what they know mimics, and it constantly comes back as no, it's not that.
Yeah.
So it's just until they completely run out of other things to test for.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you able to ride even a little bit, or have you stopped completely?
No, I can still hack out. Occasionally, I can get on and have a trot around the arena. I have made alterations to reins to. So I started the 1M challenge, then that my arm was weak, but that's one of a few symptoms. It was going to be confusing to add in everything. But part of not being able to ride is the dexterity in my hands. There's very little use of my fingers. So it makes it hard to hold your reins.
Mm.
I've made alterations to reins to try and keep doing a little bit more in the skill, but it's trial and error.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned the challenge, the MND One Arm Challenge, or hashtag MND One Arm Challenge that you've set up. And it's really taken off, hasn't it, on social media? Tell us about that. Tell us what it is and who's been getting involved.
Yeah, hopefully it's taken off. So the idea behind it was to show the early stages. So when they first came to me and told me this is what they thought I had, I was lying in a hospital bed on my own, bored. First thing you do, which they tell you not to do, take out your phone and Google it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anybody who looked like me. Everybody was on a ventilator, in a wheelchair, much further on. So I wanted to show that that's not how it starts. It starts with nothing more than a frustration
Yeah.
and a niggle, basically the equivalent of a broken rib. But it just, instead of getting better, it just keeps getting worse. So yeah, I wanted to try and show these early stages because everything I've researched, and I'm not a doctor, but everything I've researched has said that the best time to slow progression down is in the early stages. So you don't want to miss
Yeah.
the early stages, don't want to miss the early diagnosis. And like I said before we started recording, as horse riders, we pretend we're fine when we're not.
Yeah.
We pretend that our broken arm doesn't hurt. We get back on a horse 3 weeks after an injury when the doctors have told us to have 2 months off. It's just what we do. So my point was that MND is known to predominantly affect sports people. There are links to head injuries, spine injuries, so it is our world. If you've got a niggle, don't keep ignoring it. Diagnosis does take years. It can be something as stupid as you're struggling to lift your saddle, you're struggling to put the bridle on the horse. But don't ignore it. Go get it checked and start the process. It's not an easy process to diagnosis, so start it as soon
Yeah.
as you.
Yeah. So how can people get involved? What do they have to do for their One Arm Challenge?
So I was lying trying to think of how to show people what this was and what it could mean. And I thought of the ice bucket challenge, which was a huge success. So I was like, how can we do something similar? And then I thought, well, my first symptom was the weakness in my right arm. So my initial thought was, can you ride your horse with one arm? Then we opened it up to all sports. Can you do your sport with one arm? And then it got completely opened up to, can you do what you love with one arm?
Yeah.
So we've got everything. We've got hanging clothes on a washing line, driving tractors, eating boiled eggs, trying to swim, baseball.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of horse riders. And we were so lucky to go back to my connections to Cheshire and use Jeff Billington, Sam McElroy and Emily King, Laura Collette, who have all been fantastic at getting involved, showing their videos and hopefully sharing it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So you don't have to be a celebrity or an elite horse rider though, do you? You can do, or you don't have to be a horse rider. You can do anything at all.
We've had
Why
so many
not?
children get involved. We've had 2 riding clubs, a pony club camp, the local primary school, all the way through to my 74-year-old dad driving a tractor. Like anybody doing anything at all. Anything you love, can you do it with one arm?
Yeah, yeah. And it's really difficult. I mean, the lady who did the boiled egg, she had just the boiled egg, not just eating it, but actually sort of cracking it open. That was fantastic. I really felt for her. That was a brilliant video. So people can look it up. I'll put in the description box. I'll put the link to your page on Facebook, and they can go and have a look at all the videos. So you're raising awareness, you've got lots of people getting on board, and there's also is it Just Giving? just give it. I couldn't remember then. My mind went blank. Okay, yeah. So I will put that in the link as well. And what do you think then is on the horizon for you?
I'm very, very lucky to have a fantastic team of doctors. Absolutely fantastic. I went to 2 private hospitals first before this year finally getting referred to the NHS team, and the NHS team have blown the private hospitals out of the water. They've just been fantastic, and they just keep searching. They just keep looking. We've run out of, like I say, every single obvious thing there is to test for has been tested.
Yeah.
But they just keep looking. And at the minute, because they've run out of tests to do, they've started a different approach, which is to give me treatments for other illness.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they said, we can't find any evidence that you've got this, but let's give you the treatment. And if there's any form of improvement, there's a chance it's in there and we're just not seeing it. So my next thing is a course of IVIG, which is like an immune. Well, you would know from your doctor days. It's basically like a blood infusion of whole blood that's filled with antibodies. So it's a 3-day treatment once a month. So that's the next thing. That starts on the 1st of September and then every month after that. And basically, if there's any form of improvement, because MND, there's never, ever any improvement. Things all get worse.
Yeah.
So if there's any form of improvement, there's a chance that they've missed something. And
Yeah.
so, what a fantastic team of doctors. They're just not giving up, and they're just continuing to search even when they've run out of things to search for.
Oh, that's great. That's really great, and I really hope the IGG really helps and see also, some improvement. So you've got out of that limbo of wondering as well, haven't you? But you've also got a clearer path in some ways.
Well, they haven't taken the last glimmer of hope away. And I know that you laughed at me earlier for saying I was lucky, but I am lucky to be in that position. They say this is an incredibly rare disease. They say it affects mostly men. The week I was in hospital, there were 4 women in my ward diagnosed with MND. I was the youngest of them, but none of them were old.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've stayed in contact with a few of them. Progression has been fast for them.
Yeah.
It has been fast. It has been almost out of control. And their diagnosis was definitive on that first EMG. So I am lucky. Mine's not quite definitive. And even if it is, it's slow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank God for that. And I really wish you from the bottom of my heart all the best luck in the world to find a diagnosis. I'm really hoping that it's not MND, but if it is, you've got a very slow progression. And I know you're a fighter, born fighter. You're probably the most mentally strong person that I know. So I do wish you well. Thanks ever so much, as I say, taking time from your sick bed to come and talk to me, but also being that person who's brave enough to put themselves forward and raise awareness for this disease as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You take care and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.